All right, I'm showing live. Are you guys?
Yep.
Just a second. I need to get a pen. All right, I'm back.
Sweet. Well, let's start off with a prayer. I'll say it. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this evening. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to gather together to discuss this case. We ask the Heavenly Father that we may have Thy Spirit with us, that we can understand it and that we can help each other to understand it as well. We ask the Father that Thou mayest look over those who aren't with us tonight, who usually are, that they can be safe in all of their travels and that things go smoothly. We also ask for Thy blessing with the rest of this semester, that we can finish off strong and that we can be able to keep up with all of the many tasks that we have going on in our lives. We love Thee very much, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Sorry, guys, I just realized I was wearing a hat for that. So much for the blessings. Just kidding. Okay. Anyone have a spiritual thought? I guess I do. Like I said, on our travels, we blew a tire, and that can always be a scary thing, but everything works out okay. And, drive by a couple terrible accidents, and it just makes you feel thankful for the protection that you do have, and just knowing that there's a plan for everything and you're being watched out for. And we certainly felt that on the drive, so I'm always thankful for that. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Yeah, I'm sure the roads weren't very good going. Did you go up through the Blues or did you go up through Montana?
Up through Montana, and it wasn't terrible, honestly. There were a couple places, but passes weren't half bad.
Good
Worried
deal.
about the way back more than I was the way there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's dive in. What are the possible causes of Progreso's poor sales performance? What options are available to improve performance? Which elements of the business model are validated? Why do you think so? Ask group members to share alternate points of view. Okay, I'll jump in. So the one that really stood out pretty quickly was lack of motivation from account executives to reach goals and to start hitting that commission level of payment. I just think if you have a sales force that isn't motivated and isn't effective, you're going to have, you're not going to be profitable, especially as a startup. You're trying to get things moving, get the ball rolling, and you've got these sales guys who are totally fine with just making the hourly wage, whatever it is, and that's a problem, because if you're going to be successful, you've got to be selling accounts.
Yeah, it was $8 an hour.
In
2009, in 2008, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that's like minimum wage,
right?
For a trained salesperson.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you go down here and look at so let's say for the month I sold 20 loan distributions. Okay, let's say 25, but that's like a third of the current ones at the store. So that's 20 times 25. So I get a $500 bonus for the month on top of my $8 an hour. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but that ain't a whole lot of pay.
Right. No,
I
you're
mean, you're talking a bonus of $125 a month, per week, and then 8 times, say 40. So you're $320 a week for your base wage, and then 125. So you're $425 a week before taxes. You pay your taxes, which is going to put you down at least, $375 a week is what you're making.
yeah.
And you're expecting high performance out of those individuals?
Totally. They really need to revisit their compensation system and do some soul searching over that.
From my perspective, like, you're talking about hamburger flippers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of wages they're getting.
Yep.
But with the bonus, I mean, they're literally getting hamburger flipper wages, but they get a $125 bonus if they bust their butt.
Right.
That was one of the thoughts I had, was if they waived the loan origination fee for their own employees. Because, I mean, I'm sure a lot.
I mean, that's harsh.
I'm sure a lot of them need it to get through some months.
No, yeah, they definitely need to revisit it, and I think you switch to maybe an all commission wage, but yet you actually pay them for a sale, and that's something even big companies from quarter to quarter will change the way they pay their employees, and they'll raise the bar on where they have to hit to get the bonus or whatever. But they're not anywhere near where they should be. I think you're right there, Parley, that they're paying these guys next to nothing and expecting or hoping for them to be motivated. And I just don't think it's going to happen that way.
Yeah, and not only that, but like, so how many salespeople do they have working at each store? Because they're saying their cost of acquisition, cost per account is almost $400.
What's the actual? I'll look at it. Sorry. Let me see.
Like, their initial cost per customer acquisition was really high.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, so here it's breaking down. An AE working 40 hours a week, making 30 loans per month would make $25,000 a year. A cost to Progreso of $69 per loan. Okay. If you got an extra 10, so now you're talking he's getting 40 loans. Like, one guy's getting 40, then it's up to 30 annually. Okay. But then the cost falls to $63 per loan because he's got more loans, and so that extra 5,000 is so.
Right.
But no, I remember that number is in here somewhere. Their cost, their CPA. I'm looking.
I think it's towards the bottom. The average CPA was $400. Page 5 actually is where it's at.
Yeah, average. So that was for the first 4 months.
Right.
Okay? So, hey, they were paying themselves. They're getting into it, but I think they still had problems with that later on. That they were having high. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. What was their average income per sale?
The companies or the employees?
The company.
I think they said they were like $190.
Yeah, it was $180 is what the company was making. That was their profit. So it was
Okay.
$180. They would make $180 between the fee and the interest minus the $55 that they had to pay. Let's see if I can go back and look at that. Yeah, so 180 minus the 55. they have to pay $55 in interest on the loan. That means they're paying 5.5%, roughly,
Monthly.
almost 6% on the loans that they're getting. And
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Anyway,
So I think we all can agree that their compensation system is out of whack. What else? What were some of the other causes, still on that first question, of these issues they're facing in lackluster sales?
Well, one of the big ones I saw or foresaw was down at the bottom of the case study. I think it was, or was the notes in this or something. Somewhere it said that the grocery store has about 3,000 people, that it serves 3,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That statistic right there made me think of my mission, where I was in a small area where it seemed like we knocked on every door during every transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these salespeople are seeing the same faces on a weekly basis. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
getting any new lead generation. If somebody tells them no, then they probably tell them no the next time. So
Right.
I don't think the leads are there, the contacts are there.
Speaking of which, they don't have any good way to track that right now.
Correct.
And it talks about that in the case, how they're working on the back end system and getting things in place to do that. But that seemed nuts to me too, because I just don't understand how you set a business up that depends on sales like that, and then you don't have some way of keeping track of your leads or calculating your what is it called? Oh, your understanding your pipeline, your sales pipeline.
Yeah.
And I mean, Sears was pretty upset by that. So
Yeah, I'm sure at that point Sears was just like, what have we gotten ourselves into?
exactly. But they did talk about in the case how they hired a new guy and they're working on that. Another thing that came up, if I remember right, I remember my wife was reading this to me while I was driving 80 miles an hour, so comprehension may not have been perfect, but they had an issue with the location in a lot of the stores, as far as where their kiosk was located inside the store. And I don't
that
know
was
what kind of
years.
I don't know what kind of deal they have worked out with Sears, but I wonder if they could move closer to the checkout lines in Sears or closer to the
Well,
entrance of the store. Or...
I think unfortunately that's already gone.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, take that as a lessons learned for the next go around though. The next
Oh,
company.
totally.
No, I think that was a very good point though. I mean, they learned a lot you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes.
Yeah.
And I think that these guys
Speaking,
learned a lot about, having what they have their customer, or Sears or their next partner, what they push them for, how they train their employees,
right.
stuff like that.
Um, Speaking of learning from your failures and successes, I feel like somewhere in there, I think it was talking about how they don't really understand what it is that's getting them success where they do have success. I think they need to do a lot of research, go to the highest selling stores and do some observational research and ask some questions, figure out what the sales team is doing, and try to figure out what it is that's making that place successful while others are struggling or more successful anyways.
A little undercover boss.
Something like that. Yeah. But I know that's what I would do. If I was looking at a sales force that was struggling, I'd find any high point within the entire sales force and I'd go there and I'd just figure out what was going on. And I mean, just think about the mission. They always do the exact same thing. Mission president or ZLs will, look to whoever is, doing things well and having success and then try to figure out what it is they're doing.
I think another issue was the fact that they're oriented towards Spanish speaking people, and half their managers don't even speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like they're taking their sales force, who are obviously not the most well trained if they're working for $8 an hour. When they started doing training, they did training at freaking 1 day worth of training. Like it was 1 day of classroom, like 1 day of shadowing, and then boom, you're off. That was their improvement. I was like, really? It takes way longer than that to like actually train somebody to do a good job. I mean, if you really want them to be successful.
Right.
Yeah, I found that odd as well.
And that was a massive improvement to their training program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, if they hire somebody new and they hire them into a struggling sector, what they call it, AC or whatever their stores are, kiosks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they hire somebody into a struggling kiosk and this person that's struggling is training the new person, all they're going to do is struggle, beating the dead door. So.
Okay, let's go ahead and push forward here. Harley, did you have something? Sorry.
I'm almost to. Just you can go ahead for right now.
You're good to move on. Parley, is that?
So, just real quick, did you guys?
Are you running numbers?
Well, here's the question I have: is they wanted us to calculate the customer acquisition cost under the current plan. But what they don't tell us is how many people actually work at each location. So like, for question number 3, this is on the original thing.
Right.
It says monthly rent, if they have per year and their goal is 55 loans per month, what is the customer acquisition cost on the current compensation plan if they hit their goal? Well, I guess I could go backwards. So 3 divided by that's going to be 87.5. No, times 87.5, 3. Divided by 8, divided by 40. That doesn't work. They're saying fixed compensation is 8.5 employees per location. Right? Did I do that right? 318.
I'm looking at it right now. 3118.
And times 87.5, or like 0.875%. That leaves $2,280 left over. Divided by 40 hours, that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 341 hours per location per week, right? divided by 40. That means they have 8.5 employees. No, sorry.
No. So if you just do 8 times 40, get 320, 3118 divided by 320.
But 12.5%, that 3118 includes a 12.5% DSM. That's the district sales manager's allocation.
Oh.
So the thing that gets really confusing is let's say I have 8.5 employees. I mean, to me that sounds.
What? Okay.
Wait a second. That's 8.5 40-hour periods over the course of a month. So 8.5 divided by say 4, they've got 2 employees at each location. That makes more sense. So if they're getting 77 loans divided by 2, they're getting 38.5 apiece. Is that tracking?
I think so. Do you have let me see.
So well, that makes sense if they never take a vacation day.
By the sound of this company, do you think they get vacation days?
No. 3118 times the 18.75. That or sorry, 0.875. That's the leaving the DSM's money for them. At least the 27, 28, 25 divided by 8. That means there's 341 hours worked per month. And you divide that by 40 hours a week, that gives you 8.5 work weeks in the month, divided by 2, so 4.25.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, we don't have enough information, I don't think, because I mean you don't know if they're open.
There's 2 employees, so if they're getting 77 loans per location, which is their goal, then they're getting 38. This I just wanting to. Like I said, it wasn't giving me enough information. So that would be, they would be getting 30, their variable cost would be 30. So 77 times, I almost have this down. So that's why I'm trying to knock this out.
No, you're good. I'm going to jump to table 9, start looking at variable.
Yeah, I have that all worked out right now.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the goal sale?
They're currently getting 77.
Is that what?
Yeah, per store location.
Is that the goal? What's actually?
All right. So their total cost right now for the store is per month with 77 is $7,400 and $7,428. You know what? Here, let me share my screen so you guys can actually see what I'm working on here.
That'd be great.
So their cost of acquisition is $96 at that current deal. Because the fixed costs were $2,000, right?
Yeah, for the
fixed
store.
Monthly rent is $2,000. The fixed costs were the 3. Oh wait, I forgot to add in just a second. So there would be variable costs, DSM, and their cost would be
12.5.
No, sorry, that's up there in the top in the fixed wages.
Oh,
All right, cool. So yeah, that's the number. And if they were to change the number that they got, then this number would go up, but their cost would go down. So right now, that's what they're sitting at. So if they've got profit in each one is 180, right? But then there's a 10% loss. Subtract loan loss base on 10% of the total expected value to be loaned out. So initial loans are 90 and expected renewal value of seems like this gets way more complicated than it should be. So you're gonna have 900 times 65 times 80 plus the 900 times 0.1 expected loss. So there's $136 in loss expected on each customer. Am I understanding that right?
so all of a sudden it starts making sense why they're only paying their employees $8 an hour.
There's no way they can make money.
Right.
I mean, because they got to pay $55 in interest, but I assume that's on each loan, right?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Must pay 55. Yeah.
So you got $180. That's the total that they can get minus the 55. That brings it down to 125 minus the 96 that they're getting the other. So that's $29. And then on top of that, they've got their loss amount. And you're talking $90 on each, 10%. Loan loss based on 10% of the. I assume that that's the. I'm assuming that 10% is the. Is they're not getting paid back 10%, correct? And that would be $136.80 each total. That would be how much they were losing per customer, or $90 on each one. The loss rate of $90. Right?
I follow what you're saying, but part of me thinks that that can't be.
Well, there's a reason why they're not doing well.
There you have it.
They've had 3 successful rounds of funding.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
the
but
third one was nuts, dude. The third one, I was like,
yeah, but
I
just
would not have
because
given him that money.
just because I mean, that's the thing that's totally been mind-boggling to me this whole semester is a lot of these companies are not profitable, at least yet, and people are handing them millions of dollars.
Right. Now I can see, because it's a little different in other cases versus this case, where they will literally never be profitable if they keep doing this.
Well, the company's still in business. It's under a different name now, but it's still in business.
Didn't he say we might be familiar with this case? Because I wasn't familiar with it at all.
Nope, I'm not.
I thought in the announcement, he's like, you might be familiar with this.
Optune, I think, is the new name.
Loans for a Better Future. I see it now.
So obviously they figured it out, but man.
Something had to change.
Yeah.
I wish we had a B case for this, where we got to see that. Oh, guys, I'm so far behind on this case. I apologize. All right.
Yeah, you remember the CPA? on that after what's his name, Cavaness. Cavaness raised the expectation, thinking that would be somewhere, that would do good.
He's like, guys, we just jacked the goals up.
Yeah, the CPA for the next month was $377 each.
Oh my god!
Oops.
Hence the worst month ever, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As a group, you must change the current compensation plan to improve the number of loans made per month. You can change the variable amount, the number of loans needed to receive a payout, and/or the fixed compensation. Do not waste time trying to figure out a way to break even with lower number of loans. The board will not go for that. Okay. Okay, let's pull up that spreadsheet again, Parley.
Well, it's not automated yet,
Oh,
unfortunately. I just plug these, copy pasted, pull these over so I could get it. I haven't actually built a deal where you punch in a number here and it figures out the rest of it. But anyways, all right, so
let's just talk about suggestions then, what we think may work. Based on what you've done, Parley, because I know you've played a lot with it. What do you think needs to change there? I mean, because part of it is just speculation and saying, okay, I feel like if we start paying them this much per thing, they're going to sell a lot more. We can't know that exactly. That's kind of, you have to make those assumptions.
So here's the thing. I think they need to be paid more to start with, okay? People are going to be more motivated right now, if I'm not getting to 14 and I'm just making $8 an hour, like,
you just hate life and you don't want to sell.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this isn't working out, man. I'm not going to try. But if we were to lower that number down so that every one of them were getting some commission off of those sales, I think that would be, maybe something like, say, 5 instead of 0. They would be more motivated. Really, that's not a lot, but at least they're not like, oh, I'm working for nothing, man. Like, what's the point? And then, maybe reduce this down a little bit. You look at their goals. Their goals they were like 55 per. Yeah, the AEs have a goal of 55 per month. Put them way over the, way over this side of it. Really what they need. So right now, according to what we're saying, is they're in this neighborhood on the store level. So maybe this side of things is not where it needs to change. Maybe this needs to be lighter. So maybe like 10, 15, 20, 25, and leave that one at 30, but make this one 35, and anything over there 40. I don't know. That's really kind of a benign deal, but you'd have to see how that plays out. So at 70, 77, it works out to the same deal. But let's say, because we know we've got 2 employees, right? That's what I based this off of. No. Yeah, that number, 77 divided by 2. Okay. So let's say they're in this category, but the 2 employees, they get 100. So we go 100. Let's go back here because I want to write down what that was. So with 77, current compensation was 96.47. Okay. So we go to 100. It goes down, but now we need to go down here. So this one would be, let's change this number. So this one's now that number? So they dropped, by going to that point, they dropped their total cost from 96 to 91. But now what's compensation for that other individual? In the previous one, they were getting 30 times 77. Oh, shoot.
Equals.
So the additional compensation divided by 2 was 11.55. And now if they get 40 times 50, now they're at 2,000 per. So that increases by doing it that way. Just going, so they each, instead of getting 38, they're getting 50. Their compensation goes, I mean, the commission side goes from $1,100 to $2,000 for the month.
Almost double.
Yeah, that's almost double. That's exciting, and you're getting lower cost here. You know, you're saving $5, which isn't a lot,
but it's something.
Yeah, it's definitely something.
Yeah, but you're saving $5 on the cost of each one.
Yeah, so
what's the
100 times 5? So yeah, you're saving $500 a month, which isn't a lot. Okay, so you're saving $500 a month. The employee's making an extra $2,000 a month, so that's giving a lot of that money to them. But at least they have the incentive to do it. You know what I mean?
Partly, I'm going to assume that it was simply for illustrative purposes that you typed into the calculator 100 times 5.
It's just talking. But thanks for pointing it out.
No, now I'm wondering if it's just because you wondered if I would follow had you not done that. It's okay.
No, has nothing to do with that. It's just me talking and the calculator was up. The other thing that's screwy is my freaking, I touch the screen and it's a touch screen and I'm not used to that. So then it moves.
I can't tell you how many times I've messed people up who have like come to me with help on spreadsheets and I like point to one of their cells. It's a touch screen. I had no idea. I'm selecting things and moving things without meaning to.
Yeah. So, but the bigger thing is,
what's the feasibility of saying, okay, no base pay. It's going to be commission, but we're going to pay more commission.
So on a 77,
because if these guys are experienced sales guys, that, you know, the world of sales, that's how it is a lot of times.
All right, so let's put that number there. 389.75, 25. Okay. So we crank that down, and that really drops it. But now let's say they get commission here of, I mean, we'd really have to like.
Oh, yeah, it'd be significantly different.
30, 32, 35, 37, 40. I'm just doing this for like.
No, I like it.
42, 45, 47. So, but their total compensation at that point, which was 311 minus the 390, basically, divided by 2. So they were getting 1,364 base. Plus, as things were currently, they were getting another 1,100. So they were getting 1,364 plus the
15, I think it was, or something.
55. So they were getting 25.19.
Mm-hmm.
On our previous method that we did, they would have been 1,364 plus 2,000. So 3,400. Roughly 3,364. And then if we did this method and if they stayed at 38, it'd be 38 times 42. So that's pretty poor.
Yeah.
And if they got 50 times, say, the 47,
Yeah.
That's getting better, but it's still
Right. You have to pay more.
so these numbers would have to be higher. Let's say we add 10 to each one of those. So it's 40, 42, 45, 47, 50, 52, 55, 57. Okay, so now we're back up higher. We're still way lower. That's still $15 less.
Right.
But so if we sell,
Now you do
if
your
we do
38.
38 times 52, they're getting $2,000. I mean,
Something.
1976. So they're getting a pay cut of almost $500 to do what they're doing. But if they went 57 times 50, the new pay deal would be not much higher. So that would still need to be higher. I think these would be lower.
Yeah, you adjust.
I don't mind this one being lower, say 50 on that one. 48. Needs to drop kind of substantially, but not like crazy, so that they feel like they can.
Right. Because if
they should get this, so
what's
it's not
the
really
average guy selling right now?
38.
30, yeah, 30.
The average guy is.
Well, that's at the stores. At the
Right.
Sears place, they weren't even making this.
Right. So at the Sears place, what they should have done, dude, is they should have dropped that 35 you have right there, drop that way down, and then have a big jump so everybody's motivated to at least get 15, or they're gonna make no money. That'd be an interesting thing to try.
I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing at how we put this in here. 2, 3, that's 4. Oops, typo. I don't know. Is that going to be 55 goes 66, or sorry, 67? No, 62. And then make that one 69. All right. So in that scenario,
Now you're back up to $92.
yes, but I'm up to $92 when they're producing. So let's say they did.
Right.
So at this point, if we had them do, like, say they did their 15, 15 times 35, they're only making $525 for the month. Like, they'd have to do something special to get there. But 38 times 55, they make $2,000. Okay, which is less than they currently make, but it's a wage, right? And then if they make 50 times, say, 69, now they're at 3,400, and it's at that point it's a lot more money, and that's with 13. So this would be they're only saving $5 on. They're only saving $4 at a really high throughput. Okay, but if they're doing 38, let's change this to the 38, which would be that was 11. Now they're saving a lot of money, almost $20 if they're underperforming.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's 100. Let's go back to the 77. So they're saving $10. Yeah, at that point they save $10 on each one. So that's $770 at each location if they're not willing to perform. I just think you have to have a decent wage at the point. So let's work this backwards here. currently, if they get their cells, they get $25.90 divided by say that's 4 times 160 hours. So they're making almost $16 an hour that way currently at their current 38 for the hours they work. But if we were to get them up to 3,400 divided by the 160, now they're up to $21.50 an hour.
Oh yeah.
It's at least a little bit more attractive.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know if they could do, I mean, what if they did like like a sales bonus instead of, paying them, if you hit so many for a month or for a quarter, if you hit 70 per quarter or something like that, they could give you a bonus itself too. I mean, there's lots of things they could do to incentivize their employees to produce more.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it wants us to come up with a specific plan. Is that what we're going with then?
I think so. That makes sense.
Parley, you happy with that?
Sure.
Perfect. Once you've made your changes to the compensation plan, develop a broader action plan to include specific activities. Will you manage activities or results? You manage activities?
Huh. I would hope they'd be correlated.
Yeah. It sounds like a philosophy question.
Yeah.
Manage activities or results. You're right. I think you've got to. I think you do have to manage the activities. And if you're doing a good job of that, then you're going to get the results. If you come to find that you're not getting the results, then you need to change how you're managing the activities.
Yeah. The thought that comes to me is McDonald's. I mean, if you get a standardized practice and method, that's what really brings you the income. If you're just like, hey, Salesforce, willy-nilly, go out there and sell me stuff, you may have some good ones, you may have some bad ones, and like there's just no continuity. But if you could start building that, managing the activities side of things, where you build a platform of methods that make them more successful, that teach them how to be successful,
Yeah.
they're going to be happier because they're going to be getting more results.
Making
And
money.
you're going to be happy because they're going to get more results. And oh, by the way, with the compensation plan, even if it was the old method, they're still going to get paid more and they're going to be much happier.
Right. So it asks, will you keep your current AEs? Do you expect them to stay with the new compensation plan? Where will you find new AEs if the current ones leave? Well, it's tough because you really want bilingual people for your account executives. So as far as finding new AEs, we were talking about some of the communication problems they were having with their managers who didn't speak Spanish.
Well, I think the managers need to speak Spanish. I think that, they need to be focused on that.
Yeah.
It should be just part of their job requirement for being a manager. There's plenty of people out there, shoot, man, just go to Utah if you need to pull some people. There's plenty of people that speak Spanish and English as well. And you could find competent and qualified managers that can do that.
And I think the nice thing with our compensation plan here is that it asks if you expect them to stay. And I think the answer to that is the good ones will stay because Because if they think that they can hit that upper level of sales, they're going to make more money, and so they're motivated to stay. And then you weed out some of the lousy ones.
Yep.
And so no, I definitely like that part of the plan. I think that's a positive thing.
I don't know. I guess the one question is can you actually not pay them and just go and still have them as employees? They're commission only.
Wait, what's that?
Can you have I guess waiters are that way, right? They're commission only, or they get paid a really low wage.
Oh, you're right.
So that's that. I guess that would be my question.
If they're actually your employee, not a technical independent contractor.
Yeah, but can you pay somebody less than
minimum
wage and still? I don't know. That's a question I don't know the answer to.
Let's assume you can.
Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, there's jobs that are strictly commission.
Interesting.
Sure.
So, for example,
I think you're right, Alex.
During a slow period, your commission averages only $5 per hour, then your employer must pay you an additional $2.25 per hour to make up the difference so that you receive the $7.25 minimum wage.
That's federal law?
That's minimum wage workplacefairness.org.
I'm assuming that's federal then.
And details who the Fair Labor Act covers, as well as what wage applies for probationary periods, minors, trainings, etc. So, I mean, I'd have to dig through this to make sure I understand this correctly, but that's something we definitely need to consider because if they're not making at least the $7.25 an hour, then we're going to have to pay them $7.25 an hour.
Yep. And then fire them.
Yep, I agree. So, hey, here's your $7.25. The boo.
Perfect. Okay.
But as far as finding more employees to actually run the sales team, to be AEs, I think they need to start looking for a little higher caliber than just whomever replies to their Craigslist deal. Initially, they were pulling sales clerks that were doing really well, and that was working well for them. And then that created bad blood with the grocery store, so they went with anybody. But here's the thing. I think you talk about managing activities. These employees, if you give them 24 hours or even one day, an 8-hour shift, and teach them about how to do loans and how to sell and all the information they need, they're not going to know anything about what they're actually trying to accomplish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be a good sales team doing that. They should do, a minimum, probably a week of training so they can teach them not only how to sell, but how all the credit stuff works. I mean, how many people off the street know what their FICO's credit score is, let alone how it's calculated and how it's affected by all these other things? And their whole intent, I mean, essentially their value proposition
is to help people understand those things.
Is to help people understand those things so that they can get them, lift them out of poverty. So when they go to get a rental contract or anything like that, and they get the credit score check, that it's high enough. So, I mean, you're trying to take an individual off the street basically, and somehow in one day and some shadowing,
make him an expert. Yeah.
Make him an expert in how you can help people build their credit score. Dude, it's still a mystery just for me. I mean, case in point, I spent the last 4 months paying off installment loans, and my credit score didn't move a single point.
Wow.
So I like call them up. I'm like, hey man, what's going on this? I'm talking to Experian. They're like, well, so here's the deal. Installment loans don't change. They don't really change your credit score. Now, if they were the only thing, then in this case, like this is an installment loan. But if it was the only thing, it would boost your credit score because now you have history. But in my case, where I have mortgages, actually multiple mortgages, and I have credit cards, I could pay off every single one of my installment loans at this point, and my credit score wouldn't move. Who would have thought? Well, but if I'd have taken that same money and put it on credit cards, my score would have gone up 50 to 60 points with the same money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's something that I monitor on a regular basis. So, like, it's just little things that, like, I think it would take
Longer than a day of training.
Longer than a day of training to, like, actually get everything put together, understand what's going on, and be competent to talk to somebody else about. Because honestly, what there's most of the people, if you walk up to someone and say, hey, are you interested in getting a loan? You know what? I don't need any money right now. But if I come up to you and say, look, what's your credit score? And they're like, I don't know. Tell you what, what a credit score can do for you. And I start talking about, like, how you can get better rents, you can get cheaper stuff. At that point, I might be like, you know what? Hey, look, I might be interested in taking one of those $900 loans, not because I need the $900.
But because you want to improve your credit.
But because I want to improve my credit. And hey, by the way, I can use the $900 for XYZ, and then I pay on it over time. And hey, that's cool. But, like, the bigger thing there is I can now get a credit score. So when I go to buy the car, or I go to get a rent check or whatever, now I have it. So, and that's, I think, maybe if you're talking about, like Alex, you were talking about the, like, you're seeing the same customers over and over again. Didn't they talk about how if you have 3 different loans, they could raise your credit score?
Do a 660
or something like that.
Yeah.
So, like, but if you don't know anything about credit scores or anything like that, like, as a salesperson, you're gonna be like, hey man, you need some money? Oh, you don't need any money? Okay, well, maybe they'll get you next time. Like, but at the same time, if you were like, hey, we need you, and you could change that conversion rate of, from 65 to something higher, and you could start working on, that, to me, I see that as their value proposition, is not, maybe not focusing on that as much as, they said that was something that was a big deal for them, but it just doesn't seem like you could teach your employees that in 24, in a one day. Oh, here it is. The training program Dudley implemented was a half-day class with heavy emphasis on sales role plays. After that, AE recruits would shadow a seasoned AE for 1 day, followed by a day of on-the-job training that included typing applications on the computer. And then they became their own deal from their own. That's like 3 days into the job, I am no longer being trained.
How do you think that would have gone with helicopter flying, Parley?
Well, that's a whole different ballgame. but this is the thing. It's like AE recruits who became AEs began their first day on the job properly trained and fully informed about what they had signed up for because of that 3 days of training. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. I don't agree with that.
I understand your struggle with that.
It's going to take more than 3 days to teach a customer an employee to be able to fulfill your value proposition.
Right.
They may be able to walk up to someone and say, hey, if you're, like, ready and willing to go and fill out this application, guess what? I can type it up for you. Like, that isn't the job. That's not what needs to be done, in my personal opinion.
Right. So the post discussion poll is going to ask us what we came to as far as the consensus goes on the compensation plan. So if I understand correctly, did we nix the $8 an hour?
Well, we gave it two different variations of it.
What was that final one we were talking about?
That was no $8 an hour.
Okay.
So that was each store location gave district service managers or sales managers $390 a piece, and then we had this much more aggressive, all the way up to like $70 a pop for a commission.
Right. So we changed the fixed amount, the fixed compensation. We changed. We also changed the number of loans needed to receive a payout, right? Because we brought that to your first sale, you would get or what did we change it to finally? Was it 30?
35.
35. So we did change that as well. So we changed all three things. We changed the fixed, we changed the variable amount, and then the amount you need to get a payout.
Yeah, so let's see here. To get the 13, so 725 or 725, right?
When I
asked,
I didn't. We hadn't talked about the last step yet, so I didn't put the. We changed the salary, but
Oh,
I don't think it matters.
you'll be okay.
So based on the way we have this, they would have to 160 hours times 7.25. They would have to get, if they'd have to get 29 divided by the 44, they'd have to get 26. So they'd have to hit 26 loans each a month to make that minimum wage.
Yeah.
That's basically the way we have it set up. So if they didn't get 26 loans apiece, hey, you're less than 725, we got to pay you, and now you're out.
Yeah.
You'd lose a lot of employees that way if you only give them 3 days of training.
Yeah, I think you're right. They need a shadow longer. Or, have like a senior partner or something. And
Well, I think if you had like, say, a whole week of training, 5 days, you could go over credit theory, you could go over, sales tactics and role playing, you could go over, really applications like in depth, and the requirements, and what they're needing and whatnot. You could go over that stuff. And oh, by the way, almost every company that I know of requires you to go through their own HR, training. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you could do that for 5 days, and then at that point shadow somebody. So you're at a store where there's 2 employees, and you shadow those 2 employees for a week. I mean, you're talking about, even at 7.25 an hour or $8, you're talking about $600 to train your employee at that point.
Yeah.
That's a really small investment, with 2 weeks before you turn them loose to like represent your company.
Right. Oh, and if you struggle with getting people to, or your credibility, you know what I mean? If all of a sudden you start building a reputation for having guys who don't know what they're talking about, and you advertise yourself as somebody who knows how to help you with your credit score, you're going to get into trouble fast with your brand.
Oh yeah.
So no, I think you're probably right there. And then by the end of the 5 days, man, they want nothing more than to get out of training and go sell.
Yeah.
They're ready to go out. It's like the MTC. By the end of 6 weeks, man, whew, You just want to go. Okay. Well, boys.
I just don't see how they can even ever be profitable if they're getting 10% loan loss on the. That's
just
130.
That's just bad debt, right?
Yeah, that's bad debt of $136.80, and they're getting revenue of 180 times 0.65 times 0.8 plus the 180. So they're getting revenue of 273 minus the 136.80. I don't know how that worked out to the exact same number, but anyway, 136.80. That's what it worked out to. 180 times 0.65 times 0.8 plus 180 is 273.60. Okay, 900 times 0.65 times 0.8 plus 900 times 0.1. Oops, 0.1. Yeah. So yeah, of the revenue that they're generating, 50% of it's being lost in bad loans. And then of that 136 that's left, they got to take out $55 for interest. Let's say that covers both of them. 136.8 minus 55, that's 81.80. So to be able to be profitable, in my opinion, per store location, they have to have that cost per loan less than 81.80. Which,
are we there?
Nope. Well, that's with 77.
Jack up the loans because our guys are going to be more motivated, right?
So let's say they go to 100.
1,000. There you go. Booyah.
And they have to. We increase their commission to the 13.
Oh. Wait, that's worse? Suck. This is a really bad realization to be making an hour and 10 minutes into the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like
let's just crop it. Just crop the meeting.
the thing is this now if they did the minimum goal was 111. So let's go back here and change that.
Wait, that might get worse though.
No, it'll get better.
Okay.
But if they made a goal of 150, I'd put them at 80, 84.93. Okay, so they're getting closer if they got to that point. But now each AE is getting 75 each.
Yeah. Let's hire another guy. Throw another 75 on there.
Well, so here's the thing: if we increase the number of people there to 3, but do you really need 3 people in each grocery store?
Probably not.
Yeah, it wouldn't change anything because over 45, so you'd still be over 50.
It's going to be cannibalizing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so I just don't see a road to profitability personally, not with the losses. I mean, revenue per customer is 273.6. Then you got to you're losing half of that just by loan loss. Then you got to pay interest, which is 55. So you lose that. That leaves you with 81.80. And somehow you got to get that. Well, so here's the thing. We'd have to reduce this. If we reduce this,
just the top 3 really are of it. Would even matter. I mean, it'll look funny if you don't do the others in the model, but I mean, if we're saying they're selling 75 a piece, just bring that top commission down.
let's change these. Let's change this to say 50.
Is this with the $8 an hour again?
Uh-huh. something like that. We can even make this one lower, 20. So, hey, you got to freaking pony up or you don't get anything.
Hey, and look at that. All of a sudden, we're profiting a whole $2 alone.
So what that does, though, is at current levels, we're paying them more than we were in the previous example, unless we make that 30. So then they're paying, we're paying them the exact same for 77 loans. Let's move that to, okay, so yeah, we're status quo at 77 loans.
Mm-hmm.
But the incentive is way lower down here. So
Right.
if they're only getting, it's just way lower. But if we go higher, so let's say we have 100. That's going to put that down there on the third.
Finish up 30 seconds with the meeting minutes. So let's do stuff.
That's still worse. 96.18 versus 96 the other. So this is too high.
I think where we were at is about
The sweet
as
spot.
close as we're gonna get.
Honestly, it looks like we need to reduce these and have nothing there. The problem is that if they have to go too high before they get anything, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're not going to want to, I don't know, make it like, and that just, it makes them earn even less.
It's a catch-22.
Again, the problem that I see is one, they're paying way too much for interest. Okay. Most of these loans are how long? They're like 9 months to, right? 9 months, which typically pay back over 9 months at a gross APR of 36%, which gives them the $180. Okay. So they're paying it back over 9 months. So they're saying, let's say we do the 1368 divided by 9. Well, that's not what I want. 1368, and they're paying 55 bucks. So 55 divided by 1368, that's 4% divided by 9 times 12. They're paying 5.3% interest on the money they're borrowing. That's not very good for someone who's supposedly borrowing, lending a whole bunch of money. They should be able to get that, something simple. Let's say they reduce that 55 down to, let's say they could negotiate better terms and get $35 per 1368 divided by 9 times 12 and get it down to 3.4. Now at 35, they have an extra $20. Now they could be up to 101.80. You know what I mean? At 101.80, they'd be making money. Here. You see that?
One sec. There we are. There we are.
I don't know that they're going to do a whole lot in improving. I mean, they could probably improve their loss rate, but you're talking about kind of risky loans. So 10% really isn't. That sounds a lot, but I think that's probably where it's going to stay. And they're already paying their people like nothing.
Yeah, there's a reason they're paying them like nothing.
Yeah, honestly, I think the best way to make themselves profitable is interest, is negotiating cheaper interest rate.
Yeah.
Which seems counterintuitive.
What's that?
Seems a little counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Well, if they can negotiate a lower interest rate on the money that they're paying, then they make more money off the customer.
Right.
Like literally that 55, if you reduce that from 55 to 35, now their cost that they can pay their customers, I mean, now if at 96, they're still making $5 a pop per loan. But, times 70, let's say it's times 100. That means each location is making $500 profit. And then you have on top of that, you got to do your HR and your upper management, your general administration costs. Like, there's no way you could make money that way. I just don't see this being a profitable endeavor. Somehow they've worked it out, but it's got to be.
They've made changes, I'm sure.
I don't think the compensation method is the what would save them. You know what I mean? I mean, if you left this at 35 and went to 100, that gets them down to 86. But 86 still keeps them above 81.80. And that's if I'm calculating those numbers right. Of course, I mean, I am assuming that I am.
Harley, I'm assuming that too.
Huh?
I'm assuming that too. That you're right. Guys, this has been an hour and 20 long minute, wow, English, minute long meeting. I think we should probably cut.
Okay. Well, let's, what's the last, is there a summary? We basically covered that. So summary, we don't like the business idea. Or I don't. I don't like the business idea or their current path to profitability. It doesn't look profitable in any stretch of the imagination.
The closest we came to getting there where we needed to be, I'm seeing myself on your screen. That's freaking me out. The closest we got is when we cut the minimum wage altogether, and we completely changed the compensation plan as far as
we did that.
As far as the commissions went. We started them earlier on. We gave them higher commissions. And that way, what it did was it favored the high performers, not on a balanced scale. If you were an underperformer, you were going to be making much less, and not just on a linear basis. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the more you sell, it's exponential. And what that does is you institute that new plan, that new compensation plan, and then you have the weaker guys leave because they're going to struggle. Either they're going to step up or they're just never going to make what they want to make. But then it really motivates the guys who are already selling well. Those guys who are already making good sales and they're up there, they stick around because all of a sudden their earning potential, if they just make a few more sales, increases considerably. So that's our plan. There we go.
So if we adjusted it like this, we're within profitability. So you have 0, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
What were we at earlier? We
went 5, 10, 15, 20, and this was higher. So they got more commission on the higher ones. But in this case, yeah, if you do it this way,
like 55 or something, but that was no fixed wage. That was saying, okay, we're just cutting the fixed wage.
Yeah, but even then I went 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and that top one was like $40. But if they got the 111, and that would put them at the higher wage, it'd be 76. And at that point, so if they could reach that goal, their minimum goal, which was the 111, at that point, they're making, each store is making, or each loan is making,
$5.
8180 minus the 7611 times 111. So they're making the $630, $631.59 every month. And they've got 8 stores. That's what? That doesn't even pay for one HR person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they need substantially higher margins. And really, for their situation to be working, they need to not be paying interest at all on the money they're lending.
Yeah.
Because at that point, let's say they didn't have any interest expense. They had everything else working the same. So it's 8180 plus the 55. So now they're making that, and then we get the minus the 7611. Now it's $60.69 per loan times the 111. Now that store is making 6,759, and they've got 8 of them. Okay, so now they're making $5,300 a month profit, $5,400. Now you start taking out some of that, but see, they had 150,000 burn rate, did they? I remember correctly, they had 150,000 burn rate every month, but that may have included everything.
I think.
I mean, they've got whole departments, they would need to have a lot of locations to be profitable. But at least at that point, they're making enough money on each one. If 8 stores can generate them 54,000, now you're scalable. But they're paying interest on the loans. That's their bread and butter. They're just not gonna. They're gonna scrimp by and it's gonna be a disaster unless they could. Anyway, there we go. Summary.
That whole last 10 minutes, we'll call it. Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess next week we'll see. We have a lockdown time. We can cancel the live feed.
Yeah, I'll stop it here.